Hello, and welcome to another episode of Generally Speaking. I'm your host, Bill Lawrence. Today is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. Please hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and leave us a comment. What do you think could be better? Or maybe you think it's already the best out there. More channels should be like this. I could understand feeling that way. Let's get going. First of all, Department of War was the Department of Defense. Now it's called the Department of War. So many people getting upset about that. But actually, this department was called the Department of War to begin with. And let's face it, that's what it is. I say call it what it is. Then we've got a comment by Hegseth about how we're going to focus now, new attitude, lethality over legality. Well, now that does sound really cutthroat here. What happened to the good country? Well, listen, that's always the way it's been anyway, as well. Again, let's just call it what it is and let's go with that. So, somebody was looking at this situation and did a little research and said, since 1991, which isn't too long ago. Well, actually, some people weren't even born yet. I was born. I'm back from the 50s, so wasn't too long ago for me. The age, it just catches up with you so fast. Enjoy every day because life goes fast. So, anyway, since 1991, this country has been in 250 foreign military operations. Yes, yes. People talk about other countries, Russia and China, whoever, being militarily antagonistic. You got a long ways to go to catch up to the U.S. of A. What else we got going on? The Epstein story still in the news. Somebody wanted to speak to somebody, and the DOJ stepped in, not to help, but to block it, of course, because they'll do anything for the Grand Master to make sure nothing comes to light that might possibly impugn him. Not that anything would, because he didn't do anything, but you know how people twist things, and they might make it look like he did something. So, at any rate, good old DOJ standing by our man. All right. So tariffs. We got the tariffs were recently ruled illegal. Not all of them, but a great majority of them. Trump's very upset. He's going to appeal it, saying, how can you do such a thing? And you know what's it's going to be horrible. Just imagine trying to have to give back all that money. Yeah, yeah. Just like robbing a bank. And listen, I took all the money. I gave it to all my friends and relatives already. And what a horror it's going to be giving it back. Just let me keep the money. And besides, you know what Trump says, this whole, tariffs, attacking me on my tariffs. These are all foreign instigators, foreign agents. But who are they actually? Small businesses. Small businesses are hurting. Everybody's hurting from everything that Trump does, except for Trump and his millionaire class. They're all doing just fine. I'm sure they're going to support him when he tries to run for a third term. So inflation's on the rise. Trump said he was going to make America great again. I guess having rising inflation means America's great again. What happened recently with Palestinians coming to the UN? The UN was having some sort of conference discussion about UN kind of things that the Palestinian delegation wanted to participate in. And what did the Trump administration do? They revoked their visas. What kind of baby stuff is this, revoking your visa? And now the UN Assembly's got to discuss, we have to change the venue. We'll have to go someplace else. Imagine, the U.S. is just becoming a toxic place for foreigners. You heard about the two, traveling girls graduated high school, want to do a little something exciting, come to the U.S. and travel for like a month. And so they get stopped going from Hawaii to the mainland. And what are you doing, girls? What's your plans? What are you up to? We're going to travel here and there. Yeah. Where are your reservations? You got reservations? No, no, we're going to make them on the fly. That's suspicious. That's suspicious. Where we're taking you, we're sending you back to Germany. There they go. That's this country. It's sick. It's disgusting. So, yeah, toxic. That's definitely what it is. Let's go with another girl. This one is involved in a DUI. So, nothing to do with immigration this time. A DUI homicide. She's making a left turn. Motorcyclist collisions with her. No real details on exactly how that all happened, but it's irrelevant to this story. She's being charged with DUI, but she isn't drunk. The officer gives her all these tests, put the one foot in front of the other, say the alphabet forwards and backwards, and she does everything fine. Well, blow into this breathalyzer test. Zeros, zeros, no drunk. Well, I'm going to arrest you on drunk anyway because your eyes are bloodshot and glassy. They always say that your eyes are bloodshot and glassy because that's easy to say, right? So what's with this cop? What is he, just a lunatic or something? He just feels he has to charge them with DUI. You hear about the cops; they get credits for their arrests. Maybe if he gets a DUI, he gets a big gold star. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know what it is, but it's disgusting. The girl ended up having to sue. She won like $30,000. But meanwhile, her life got messed up. With her face was plastered on all kinds of websites: DUI, murder, homicide, DUI, homicide, and that can mess with your life. I guess 30,000 can make you feel a little better, but it might not if this keeps coming back to haunt her. The policing needs to have some kind of additional structure to deal with people like this, to deal with these kind of situations. Something that monitors these people that do these crazy things and they get kicked out of the force. They're never in there again. People who are lunatics, like this guy's a lunatic, or people who are emotionally disturbed, people who, at the slightest imagined offense, become physically violent, and they'll take a person, they'll slam them to the ground, they'll knock them unconscious, their head will be bleeding, and while they're bleeding, they'll be asking them questions. Hey, what's your name? What's your name? Hey, they keep talking. I have seen an officer question an unconscious person over and over again. These are lunatics. We need to have something in place. I know one of the things I heard suggestion was that the police should have insurance, like doctors have insurance, and if the every time you get sued, the insurance company has to pay it, because who pays it now? The citizens, the taxpayers pay it. What happens to the police? What happens to the officer? Oh, they get a couple of weeks paid leave. Yeah, that really hurt me. And then after they come back to work, they get Officer of the Year awards and promoted. It's disgusting. We need another layer of something in there to catch all of this. So that's my story about that. What's going on else? In Arkansas, the state of Arkansas, there's a Senate candidate, Hallie Schaffner. I was reading something about her. I liked her. I noticed a lot of candidates talk about, we need to change the horrible things that are going on. But these are all just general kind of things that anybody could say. You could be a left, you could be on the right and say things like, these are horrible. We've got to change how things are happening. Yeah, anybody can say that. Be more specific. That's what I want to hear. So, at any rate, at this point, I'll just take any Democrat. And that's not really what I want, but I think at least they would fight some of the real lunacy that's coming out of the Trump administration right now. But anyway, I thought this girl, Hallie, I think she said a couple of things that were worth supporting her, and I sent my small little contribution. But what I wanted to say was she made a comment that our leaders have no vision for the future. And this is a problem with this country in particular, and maybe capitalism as a whole, is that capitalism is based on what? Money, profit, earning profit. And for who? For the individual. You're on a boat and all you care about is your cabin. You don't care about the whole boat. And what if you think, this would really, I would stand out above everyone else if I just had that little piece of shiny steel that's at the bottom of the hull of the ship. And yeah, I'm going to take that. I'm going to put in there. No one else has this piece of steel. And they all come running. Hey, what did you do with that steel? The ship's sinking. Yeah, but look at my cabin. Look at my cabin. Get away. I got my rights. I made a deal with the captain. I gave him a lot of money, and he said I could have this piece of steel. And this is pretty much what it's like. Why can't we have bullet trains going hundreds of miles an hour? Why can't we have beautiful new skyscrapers like they have? And there's one city in China. I wish I could remember the name of it. It's unbelievable. People, they don't really have an idea of the things that are going on in China. This country is amazing. Look, they got a horrible political system. If you try to speak out, you're not going to last very long. But so many other things are absolutely amazing in that country. So why can't we do anything like that here? How about just be a little bit more like the Europeans? Have health care where you don't get bankrupt. Where you don't have Luigi Mangioni's, feeling like he's got to shoot the head of United Healthcare. Why can't we have something like that? A vision for America. That's what we need. We need actually, a vision for the world. That would really be good. Think that can happen? I don't know if that's going to happen. Oh, I heard somebody saying something that was very interesting about money from the government being given out, and depending on who gets it is depending on how you view it. So they were saying that you're classy if you're rich getting this money, but you're trashy if you're poor getting this money. And how true is that, right? Look at Musk. Wow, he's great. Look at the billions that he had the government give to him through his finagling. That's a classy man. I want to be like him. Oh, what? You got money for food stamps? You know you're pathetic. You're a working loser sucking off the government. So it's really true. Classy or trashy. In Britain, we got this ongoing story about the organization called Palestine Action. They're fighting against the genocide in Israel. And the government there has labeled Palestine Action a terrorist group. And they're not a terrorist group. They might chain themselves to a fence. They might spray paint a bomb, but they're no terrorist group, and everybody knows it. And at any rate, there have been constant protests in support of Palestine Action. People holding up signs. Support Palestine Action, and they get arrested. There's a blind guy sits in a wheelchair holding a sign that he can't even read, and he gets arrested. He's been arrested twice. And at any rate, there was this what I'm mentioning stuff because there was a crowd of thousands in a square protesting, and they didn't even have enough police facilities to arrest all the people, but they got like almost 900 people arrested protesting. Just I protest a genocide. It's unbelievable. I wonder how this happens. It's these people in these government offices. They go to work. A couple of men, women. They go in there and they sit down and say, "I think Palestine Action should be labeled a terrorist group." How does this happen? What is it? The APAC money getting paid by Israel? Good possibility there. I know in this country we got so many of our politicians paid. You see it all the time. They advertise. They don't advertise it. The opposition will show screenshots of how much this one got 800,000, this one got 300,000, this one got 9 million, this one got 2 million, and they're all voting for Israel constantly. It's really a shame, and we need some new structures in our political processes, to somehow stop something like that. I wish some of the political scientists would come up with something, political theorists. Maybe we need more like political philosophers. I'm a philosopher. I should think about it. I'll philosophize about any subject. I'm happy to do that. So what happens? The Supreme Court decided that the president can fire people at agencies that were originally created by Congress to have an independence from the presidents because they want the country to function without being twisted by political interests. Things like keeping our water and air clean. You don't want someone messing with our clean air and water just for political reasons, like a president who's friends with the chemical polluting company and says the environmental agency would be better suited to not do any regulations against this company. That's the whole reason why these agencies were created as separated from the president. And at any rate, so Trump just saw this as undesirable. I'm just going to fire people, and he gets sued, goes up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court says fine. So another one of those evidences that we're going into a totalitarian state. So another thing, what did the Supreme Court say? Now you can arrest someone for being Latino. Now they did try to add, well, you shouldn't just see that they're Latino. There should be other things like they're Latino and they look poor. They're not driving a Porsche, or they're walking around a Home Depot. Then yeah, of course you can attack them. So it's interesting. I remember there was a thing going on about when black. Sitting on a bench when black, ordering McDonald's when black, and how something that any white person would do with no problem. If you were black, you would be harassed. Police would suddenly come showing up, 7 of them in 17 police cars, with guns pointed. That's how they come out to you. Hi, how you doing? Whip out their guns, pointed at you, tasers ready to kill you when you're black. Now it's not just black anymore. Now you can be Latino and just stop. And some people try to say, well, okay, look, so they're going to question you. No, but they don't just question you. They grab you, they throw you to the ground, crack crack your skull open, then put your hands behind your back, maybe break your wrists in the process or shoulders, throw you in a van, put you in a detention center, send you to Texas or Louisiana with no communication with your family, don't know what happened to you, you're gone for weeks, and until they finally hear and you can prove that you're a citizen. Okay, we're sorry, and they let you out on a Louisiana street, and you got to get home somehow. Oh, right. That's a real nice deal that we have going on here. Country's going crazy, and I'm going to have a further comment on that later. And I'll comment on it now because it goes right into it. Another um, web producer, whatever you call them, like me, was ordinarily she would do things about. She's a German citizen in the United States, and she would talk about differences between United States and Germany. You know, the funny cultural things that can happen. And at one point, she was asking her German audience, you know, what do you think of what's going on in the country? She had over 200 responses, and them all saying, you know, how frightening it was, how scary it was, how similar it was to 1930s Hitler Germany, Nazi Germany. All the things that were going on then are going on now in America. And it is true. Trying to tell the education facilities what they can do, trying to tell the news what they can do, trying to tell law firms what they can do, sending in troops, military into the cities, hiring a private military force. He's trying to create a separate group of National Guards people as an imminent strike force, quick strike force. And if that's not enough, he's also just saying on a website, "Come join us. You know, carry a gun, go push people around, and we're happy to have you here. If you're signing up for something like this, just by that nature alone, you sound like our kind of person." Yeah, coming like uh like Germany. And there was a person commenting who was from Canada, commenting about, you know, this interview, this poll that the person did, and they were saying how, yeah, you know, I see what's going on, and I feel like there's a meth a lab in my basement, and I'm just waiting for it to explode. You know, the United States being the basement and the Trump administration being the meth lab. And I had to laugh at that. And then there was comments on the comment, and one person said, "No, you don't have to worry about that. You know, meth labs use science." And the Trump administration, that's the furthest thing from that. And they said, on second thought, maybe you're right. The meth lab is going to explode. I love the humor of people. You know, humor. It's just nice to have humor, even in the middle of all this madness. You can get some humor out of it. Oh, what else we got? Badgers and coyotes. Badgers and coyotes. Where are you going? Listen, this is called generally speaking. No telling what'll come here. It is always going to be interesting. That you know, and with great presentation. So, coyotes and badgers. What's going up there? Two different animals, right? Everybody knows animals. You got animals here. You got animals there. They're in their world. They're in the other world. Not all the time. Coyotes and badgers actually can work together. It's just crazy cats and dogs and cats all together. Well, coyotes and badgers. What badgers are good at digging holes in grounds. They can go under and get stuff, but they can't run very fast. They can go into that ground and they can scare something out, and the something comes out and runs away, and the badger can't do anything about it. But if there's a coyote outside, the coyote can run after it and get it and share the meal with the badger. And this works out for the both of them. Ah, I constantly get amazed at the things in nature that I learn. You know, you think you know everything. Oh, nature, you know, you're growing up. Yeah, there's birds. I've seen the eagle. Yeah, whales. I know the whales. And elephants, tigers, and bears. Oh, my. But if you get down to the details of so many things, it's just fascinating. And some of it's frightening. You know, nature's a really horrible place. It's a dog eat dog, bug eat bug, everybody eat everybody kind of world. And, you know, that's nature. I guess, you know, you wonder why humans are the way they are. I guess because they're natural, right? Any hope for us? I think there. I have hope. I have hope. So what else? All the bad news. Some another little funny thing. There's a county in New Jersey called Bergen County, and they have some laws there called blue laws. What are blue laws? They're laws that having to do with religious things like um, only having sex in marriage and only then to procreate, or not working on Sundays. And there were a lot of blue laws all around, and the government said, "Listen, any all of you counties here, if you don't like these blue laws anymore, we're just going to strike them off the books. Up to you. You want them, you don't want them." It's Bergen County, and they are one of the wealthiest counties in the country. If that has anything to do anything, I don't know, but they decided we like the blue laws. Specifically, we like the no working on Sunday. We like the peace and quiet on Sunday. And besides which, if you're working on Sunday, it's morally degrading. You're going to become a wicked, horrible, murderous, person if you work on Sundays, and you're going to infect everyone around you. So nobody working on Sundays. Well, okay, that's the way it was. Well, along comes this entrepreneur, some big organization, a mall building company, and they decided to put a mall in Bergen County, the second biggest mall in the country. I think the biggest one's called Mall of America, and this one's called American Dream. So they are talking with officials who mention the no Sunday working thing, and the mall says, "Fine, no problem, we can handle that." They build the mall, they open up, they got this big sign, "Open Sundays." Open Sundays, and they are, and the town goes crazy, the county goes crazy. Wait a minute, we said you can't open on Sundays, and it was a big fight back and forth. Half the government is ignoring the county. This is ridiculous, but the county, files official paperwork, with the court, and you can't just not respond to it. You got to respond to it. But the mall finds a way around it. They say, "Listen, this mall is actually sitting on state property, just like who that football stadium that's right next door. And this isn't just a high school football stadium. This is a major one where the official team of New York plays. A shame that they don't have their own stadium in New York, but that's the way it goes. At any rate, and they're on state property, and they're open, and they got people selling merchandise on Sundays in there, so we can do the same thing, and we win. And I'm so glad. I can't believe these people that get so picky about some things. It's like those HOAs where they get so picky about the grass being a quarter inch higher than it's supposed to be. And I guess this comes down to just human nature, generally speaking. When you give people control, there's no telling where they'll go, but it could be really extreme. It can be really extreme. It's amazing, actually, that any governments work at all in some sense, and this is why we have all these different kinds of structures. The American experiment, as they call it. I think the parliamentary system is a little better. I'd have to be a political scientist to know for sure, but I kind of like the idea that you can have not just two parties, even though in the parliamentary systems you kind of have majorly two parties. But the idea that they sometimes have to at least consider smaller parties to function, I think that's a good idea. So, what's next? The horrible things going on. It's nice to hear some good news. In Virginia, the 11th congressional district, which is congressional that a person goes to the House in the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. A fellow was running for office, a Democrat against a Republican, and he won by 50-point margin. That's a huge margin. Now, margins are notable if if you win as a Democrat in a Republican district. If the district already is Democratic and you win, all right, you're expected to win by a big margin. I don't know what the margin was, but I'll tell you, any way you look at it, I'm glad that a Democrat got in instead of a Republican. I don't know what this Democrat's going to do when he gets in, but we just need to put a halt on the insanity that's going on with this Trump administration. All right, what's next? Israel. Let's go back to Israel a little bit. Sort of Israel, also South Africa. Israel, South Africa. What are you talking about? Well, in Israel, you've got Gaza, everybody knows about, but there's also another Palestinian section called the West Bank, which is not Hamas. It's another organization, the Palestine Authority, something like that. But they get abused and attacked just as much as well, not just as much, but severely anyway, where these so-called settlers, as they call themselves, they're just gangsters, they're just murderers, civilian murderers that want to take the homes and the property of the Palestinians in the West Bank area. and they'll threaten them with violence. They'll shoot bullets through the windows and say, next bullet will just go into you, and they steal their property. Okay, very bad. Well, a lot of Israelis have been moving to South Africa for who knows why. South Africa. I can understand a lot of them going to Cyprus, which is happening, which is just across the Mediterranean for them. It's really close, and they go there, and there are issues happening there with the Israelis going there. Issues generally happening whenever you get a flood of immigrants, overwhelming. Most places are used to immigrants coming in. This country has had immigrants coming in since day zero, and systems develop and they work so that as things go normally, it works. It gets absorbed. When you get suddenly massive influxes, as did happen at one point some years ago, where there were overwhelming floods of immigrants coming into Europe, especially overwhelming the social services and the schools and the hospitals, and it just makes for a really bad thing. And of course, the people who have already been living there, get rightly upset. You get the idea of, well, people fleeing violence, you want to help them, yeah, sure, but when it starts messing with your system, it becomes an issue. But when things are normal, immigration happens. So at any rate, I'm going off. Israel is going to South Africa. They've been populating this one particular town, Cape Town, and the western part of it, Western Cape Town, to the point where they want to take over now. They want it to be Little Israel. And of course, you've heard of Little Italy, Little China, Little Mexico. You go to any place where an external population is coming, and they all came together in this one spot, and so they all the neighborhood looks like the country they came from. And a lot of times it's okay. It almost becomes like a touristy thing. Come see what it's like living in little whatever it is. But when they start saying, no, we want it all to be us and our rules and our language and our culture and our everything, and you get out, you can't even be here, then it becomes an issue. And that's what the Israelis are doing in South Africa. South Africa is going through some crazy stuff. And it's interesting because South Africa is in the news now as a part of the BRICS system, the BRICS, which is a counterbalance to the U.S., Europe, Western dominating system. Now BRICS is rising up and taking over, and one of the members of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa is South Africa. And wow, they're being horrified. Things going on in there, and that's something nobody hears about. I just happen to be cruising along, and I'll click on a lot of strange channels and start seeing things I don't hear too often. And I do see some interesting stuff. And you have seen some interesting stuff because you listened to me. And I don't know how many of you made it to this far. I don't get too many views as it is right now, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again. Please leave a comment. Thank you, and have a nice day.